Welcome to Trending Unpacked, the show where viral stories meet calm, curious analysis. If you've been, navigating the digital world lately, whether you're scrolling through short-form video feeds, checking news sites, or just noticing what people are talking about, you really cannot miss it.
Mm.
There's this massive, and honestly, a highly unusual thing happening right now, and it's all centered on a show that is, for all intents and purposes, over. I'm talking about Stranger Things.
It is truly striking. I mean, the core cast members, Millie Bobby Brown, Finn Wolfhard, Sadie Sink, and the rest of them, they are just dominating the cultural conversation and search results too.
Right. The show's main run wrapped up in 2025. It defined streaming for, what, almost a decade?
Nearly a decade, yeah.
And usually after a big finale like that, you expect a slow, quiet fade. Instead, what we're seeing is this passionate global re-engagement.
And globally is the right word. It's not just one region. This is a surge happening across continents, across different platforms.
And it's not just standard celebrity gossip, like when someone gets cast in a new movie.
Yeah.
This feels different. It feels like an organized, collective nostalgia wave that has just pulled this massive dormant fandom right back to the surface.
What's fascinating here, I think, are the mechanics behind it. Our sources, which track social data and media coverage, they all point toward this highly concentrated event. Analysts are even starting to call it the fandom cluster effect.
A fandom cluster effect.
Yeah, it's a resurgence that's driven by a bunch of specific identifiable triggers that all seem to have hit at the same time, and then they get amplified exponentially by how algorithms work now.
So this is less about a TV show and more about how global fandoms in the streaming age can sort of
It's cheap.
achieve cultural immortality.
Exactly.
So our mission today, for you, is to map out the timeline of the show and its actors, find those specific triggers that converge, and really analyze what pulled the Stranger Things universe back into the spotlight. We need to figure out, was this engineered or was it just a perfect storm?
Right. And to understand what's happening now, we have to go back. We have to grasp just how big Stranger Things was. It wasn't just a hit show, it was a cultural pivot. It really defined a generation of streaming from 2016 all the way to 2025.
That timeline is so important, isn't it? Nearly a decade.
It's absolutely crucial because it means the show's success wasn't just about the plot or the monsters. It was directly tied to watching a group of young, mostly unknown actors grow up in real time.
Yeah, their on-screen growth kind of mirrored their real-life maturation.
Perfectly. And that shared maturation is what sets this cast apart. They weren't established stars, they were kids who were suddenly thrust into this global spotlight.
So the audience has literally watched them go from children to young adults over 9+ years. The only other comparison that really comes to mind is maybe the Harry Potter cast.
It's the closest parallel we have, and that 9-year period was critical because it allowed them to diversify their careers. If you look at what they're doing now, post-show, their separate career paths are what's fueling this current news cycle.
Because they've all branched out into different high-profile things.
Exactly. They aren't all competing for the same roles. Their individual achievements are constantly triggering visibility across different media worlds that don't normally overlap.
Okay, let's run through that diversification, because you're right. The non-overlapping part feels very intentional. Let's start with Millie Bobby Brown. Her transition was incredibly fast and visible.
It was. She didn't just chase acting roles. She very strategically became an entrepreneur.
With the beauty brand.
Correct. She developed Florence by Mills, which is a significant brand, and she also secured major production deals. So that means she's getting press in business and investment sections, in lifestyle and beauty magazines, and in mainstream entertainment news.
A story about her brand's valuation in a finance publication is a totally separate trigger from a review of her latest movie.
Completely separate. And then you have Finn Wolfhard, who has taken a really fascinating path. He's not just sticking to acting.
He's directing now, right?
A lot of focus on directing, yeah. Which puts him in indie film circles and critical discussions, a very different space from his blockbuster acting roles. And he's still doing his music.
Which brings him into the music press. A whole other demographic that might not even care about his film work.
It just broadens the net. His professional identity is, multi-hyphenate across different industries.
Meanwhile, Sadie Sink has been very selective. She seems to be prioritizing prestige films and some really notable theater work.
Which signals a serious artistic ambition. Her career moves get coverage in, highbrow culture magazines and theater reviews. That's a different kind of news impact. It pulls in an older, more critically minded audience.
And then there's Gaten Matarazzo, who has consistently been doing stage work, Broadway, comedy, even some TV hosting.
He's actively engaging the theater community, which is a very specific and passionate media segment. So when his name starts trending because of a big Broadway show, that news immediately spills back into the general pop culture conversation, and it brings up Stranger Things again.
And Caleb McLaughlin, who is balancing film roles with activism and his own music. His social engagement puts him in conversations that go way beyond the celebrity pages.
It's another distinct vector for his name to trend organically. And we can't forget the legacy cast.
Oh, for sure.
David Harbour is constantly visible in Marvel projects and serious theater. Then Winona Ryder, she basically reintroduced herself to a new generation while reclaiming her icon status for an older one.
So the sheer nonstop breadth of all their professional activity basically guarantees that, statistically, at least one Stranger Things alum is making headlines somewhere in the world on any given day.
The groundwork for relevance is always there.
Okay, so the groundwork is there. But why the massive spike right now? We have to look at the immediate triggers that all converged at almost the same time. That's what created the perfect storm for this fandom cluster effect.
The first, and I would argue the most emotionally powerful trigger, the viral reunion moments.
The Comic-Con photos.
The Comic-Con photos, the industry event pictures. When the core cast members, the kids the audience watched grow up, appear together, and those photos get shared, the emotional response is immediate and visceral.
It's the ultimate visual shorthand for shared history, isn't it? Seeing those faces together, they're visibly older, but they still have that same chemistry. It just floods you with nostalgia, especially for those early seasons.
And that doesn't just generate likes. It generates this massive, rapid social sharing and commentary. The simple phrase, "look how grown-up they are," becomes its own viral engine.
Okay, so that's the emotional trigger.
Yeah.
What was the second event?
The second was the surfacing of leaked material. Sources noted a really rapid distribution of previously unseen, behind-the-scenes footage, BTS stuff.
Outtakes and candid moments from production.
Yeah, and this stuff was spread like wildfire across Twitter, TikTok, Reddit. And that's significant because it kind of tricks the system.
How so?
It's not just a rerun. It is fresh information about the show's history, which social media platforms and news aggregators treat as high-priority new content.
So it bypasses the algorithm's filter against old news.
Exactly. It pushes the content instantly to millions of people who are still flagged as fans of the show or the actors. It's an injection of novelty into a story that's supposed to be over.
Okay, so reunion photos and leaked footage. What was the third piece that really created the cluster?
The simultaneous career announcements. We just hit a critical mass. Major professional news, a new film for one, a directorial debut for another, a big brand partnership for a third, all from multiple core cast members, and all announced within a few weeks of each other.
And that's where the story shifts from being about a single celebrity to being about the entire show.
Precisely. If Finn Wolfhard has a new project, that's one headline. But when that happens, and then Sadie Sink gets a high-profile Broadway run, and then Millie Bobby Brown signs a huge new production deal, all in the same month.
Media outlets have to treat it as a systemic story, not just individual achievements.
Exactly. The headline stops being Finn Wolfhard directs film, and it becomes what the Stranger Things cast is doing now. And that leads directly into how the algorithmic amplifier takes over.
The algorithm as a multiplier.
It's not passive, it's an active multiplier. We saw this enormous surge in what you could call nostalgic remix culture.
Right. The fan edits on TikTok. It's very specific, too. They almost always use highly nostalgic, emotionally charged clips from, like, seasons 1 through 3.
And that's a deliberate choice by the fans, whether they realize it or not. Those early seasons represent the core emotional experience, the innocence, the beginning of it all. These rapid-fire edits are constantly cycling, and they're not just for original viewers. They're pulling in younger Gen Z and Gen Alpha audiences who are discovering the show for the first time through these montages.
It's like the entire emotional arc of the show condensed into 45 seconds with a trending song.
You don't need to watch 40 hours of TV to get the feeling, and this feeds directly into the massive popularity of the glow-up narrative.
The before and after videos.
The videos documenting the cast's physical transformation over nearly a decade. That's a huge viral engine. It's like a communal time-lapse documentary.
Because the audience was there from the start, their physical change becomes this shared cultural marker. It's a reflection of our own passage of time, which makes it super relatable.
And all of that external, organic activity then triggers the final gear, platform resurfacing.
So Netflix itself gets involved.
Its own algorithm detects this massive external interest, the high search volume, the viral edits, the news coverage, and it globally pushes Stranger Things right back into the recommended for you feeds for millions of users.
That's the closed feedback loop right there. You see a reunion photo on Instagram, and the next time you open Netflix, the show is at the top of your homepage. It forces you to confront it again.
Which brings us back to the core of the fandom cluster effect. When news outlets see this spike, they know the Stranger Things brand is clickable. It's a guaranteed high engagement story.
So they're incentivized to cluster the content themselves. They start writing articles about the ensemble, not just the individual actors.
Exactly, and that creates a situation where if you search for one cast member, say, you're looking up Caleb McLaughlin's latest project, every single related story link algorithmically pulls you back to the entire cast and the show itself.
So the individual achievement becomes a gateway back to the original source material.
And underlying all of this is the fan sentiment. The show's ending, after such a long run, sparked this huge collective nostalgic wave. The audience is still actively processing that it's over.
And revisiting old seasons and old interviews is a way to cope with that, to preserve it.
It's a kind of psychological preservation, and it provides the initial fuel for the algorithmic cycle we just described to catch fire. The fans are creating the demand that the algorithms then service. The show may be over, but its existence as a cultural entity is, functionally immortal.
Okay, that was a really thorough breakdown of the mechanics, the careers, the reunions, the algorithms. But now let's get into the speculative side of it. Let's analyze what the internet is suggesting. Is this all happening naturally, or was there, a guiding hand?
Right. This is where we move from observation into interpreting motives. And the most dominant theory out there right now is what people are calling the Netflix control theory.
The idea that Netflix is quietly engineering this whole thing.
Yes. That the timing is just too perfect to be a coincidence. The theory posits that Netflix is deliberately preheating the audience, creating maximum buzz before some kind of significant future announcement.
And that announcement could be anything from anniversary content to spin-off details or maybe even a secret project.
And the evidence fans point to are those cast reunions. They argue these aren't just casual meetups, they're carefully managed soft signals. It's a promotional activity designed to generate that clustering effect we talked about, but without spending $1 on a traditional marketing campaign.
But hold on, if it were a strictly engineered campaign, wouldn't the career announcements have been perfectly synchronized, all launching on the same day? The fact that they were clustered over a few weeks suggests it was more organic than that, doesn't it?
That is the critical distinction, and it's the biggest challenge to the strictest version of that theory. If it were a corporate mandate, you'd expect perfect synchronization. The fact that it happened over weeks suggests independent projects with their own managers and publicists just happened to hit their release windows close together.
So the theory shifts. It's not Netflix made them do it. It's more like Netflix is skillfully riding the wave.
That seems much more plausible. The cast's diversification actually makes strict control unlikely, but it makes skillful exploitation of the resulting trend highly probable. Netflix just has to see the fire starting and then pour gasoline on it by, say, boosting the show on its homepage.
Okay, moving to a deeper level of interpretation. There's also the cycle of grief and nostalgia.
Yeah, for a lot of viewers, this show was a defining cultural touchstone. It spanned their own teenage years or their early 20s.
So we're seeing fans almost actively grieving the end of this story, revisiting old seasons, re-engaging with old content. It serves as a collective coping mechanism. It's like denial, but expressed through fandom.
And that grief is constantly amplified by those nostalgia drivers we mentioned, the endless stream of edits, the algorithmic resurfacing. It prevents the show from comfortably fading into the past. You can't really let go of it if every time you open an app, a memory of it is pushed back into your feed.
The technology itself is sort of inhibiting emotional closure.
It really is.
But culturally, the deepest fascination here seems to be around what sources are calling the child star trajectory. There's this universal fascination with watching young stars transition into adult careers.
And very few casts have done it so publicly and so uniformly on a global stage like this. We literally watched their childhoods unfold. We saw their voices change, their style evolve, sometimes within a single season.
That shared experience is what fuels all the memes. The ones about the Hawkins teens growing up before our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about celebrity, it's about this shared, decade-long coming-of-age story that resonates far beyond the actual plot.
Right. When one of them, like Sadie Sink, lands a really serious, acclaimed adult role, it's not just an entertainment update. For the entire audience, it's a moment of shared public realization. Wow, they really are grown up now, and by extension, so are we.
It feels like there are strong historical parallels here. I mean, this feels like what happened with the cast of Harry Potter or even the original Avengers.
There's a very clear pattern. The fandom reemerges with incredible force whenever a key cast member trends for something totally unrelated, especially if it's a prestigious project.
That individual success acts like a lightning rod. It pulls all the attention right back to the ensemble's shared history.
The moment Daniel Radcliffe stars in a complex Broadway drama, the whole conversation snaps back to his time as Harry Potter. The individual accomplishment triggers this massive collective nostalgia. That's the exact mechanism we're seeing with the Stranger Things cast right now.
And this whole thing is intensified by what you'd call parasocial attachment.
Definitely. The finale, in particular, changed how people relate to them. For a show that ran that long, the boundary between the actor, the character, and the fan's emotional investment over a decade just gets blurry.
Give me an example of how that blurring works with this cast.
Well, think about the friendships viewers watched form over years, both on screen and behind the camera. When a reunion photo pops up, fans don't just see Millie Bobby Brown and Noah Schnapp. They see Eleven and Will together, as well as their real-life friends. The attachment is blended.
The audience feels like they have a personal stake in their success.
Because they've been present for practically every milestone of their public lives. This trend is a perfect storm of high-profile celebrity achievement, meeting the relentless force of algorithmic, emotionally charged rediscovery.
So we've mapped the facts, we've analyzed the speculation. Let's turn to the big question. What does this all tell us about modern fandom and media, and what's the real takeaway here?
I think the most important insight is how streaming fandom behaves in a fundamentally different way from traditional TV fandom.
Okay, explain that contrast. With the old broadcast model, once a show ended and the reruns stopped airing, the fandom would mostly just fade away.
Exactly. The content would go into a vault or just become hard to access. But streaming enables perpetual, instantaneous access. The show never dies, it just recedes. And because the content is always available, the fandoms never truly disappear. They just go dormant and then surge in cycles when a trigger hits.
So accessibility is the first layer of its immortality.
And the second is the unique power of that coming-of-age connection. This is why casts that are tied to these shared growing-up narratives hold such a disproportionate emotional weight and keep cycling back.
It's a psychological anchor. For a whole generation, those characters mark a decade of their own lives, their high school years, their college years. The show is tied to their personal history.
Critically, this is also where we see the power of media ecosystems and amplification at work. That fandom cluster effect is a uniquely modern, data-driven phenomenon. Once one cast member or one leaked clip trends high enough to get flagged by the algorithms that feed news desks,
the media outlets are compelled to respond because they see the guaranteed clicks.
That's it. They know a Stranger Things headline will get engagement. So driven by data, they all simultaneously start covering the entire ensemble. They take one trending point and use it as an excuse to package all the recent independent news into one big story.
Which rapidly escalates the initial spike into a global trending wave.
Yeah.
They're reporting on a trend that their own actions are helping to create and maximize.
It's a beautifully efficient system of relevance maintenance. And finally, we can't ignore the element of psychological comfort.
Right.
We are in a period of, intense cultural uncertainty, and our sources consistently show that people revisit familiar, successful content, especially those early, beloved Stranger Things seasons during turbulent times.
The early seasons feel safe, predictable. It's a comforting escape.
It provides a sense of stability, it's known, it's successful, and when the cast, those familiar faces, pops up with good news, it confirms that the narrative of success and growth is continuing. It provides a small but reliable sense of order.
So let's synthesize all of this. We have this simultaneous career successes, the planned appearances at conventions, the emotional power of leaked footage, and the massive algorithmic boost. What's the most likely conclusion?
The likely conclusion is that this resurgence is, in fact, a powerful confluence of independent events. It's a perfect storm. The convergence of multiple high-profile career milestones was probably inevitable given the talent of the cast. What wasn't inevitable was their timing.
And the result creates this compelling illusion of a coordinated event, even if the individual career moves were completely independent.
Exactly. Netflix might not have engineered a director announcement or a Broadway run, but you can be sure they are maximizing the PR output from those events. The show's legacy is now permanently tied to the continuous, ambitious career momentum of its young cast.
Their individual success has become a permanent promotional engine for the original show.
Absolutely.
So since we've seen how the finale sparked this nostalgic wave that keeps feeding these cycles, here is a final provocative thought for you to consider. We've established that algorithms in their current projects keep the flame alive. But what happens when the next wave hits? Not driven by a reunion photo or a TikTok edit, but by one of the cast members winning a major career-defining award, like an Oscar or a Tony, for a project completely divorced from Stranger Things.
If the individual independent successes of the cast fundamentally guarantee the show's perpetual cultural relevance, can Stranger Things ever truly be said to have ended? Is this just the new reality for successful, long-form streaming shows? An endless cycle of reemergence?
That's the question that's defining modern media consumption. The Stranger Things cast remains a powerful collective force in shaping pop culture, proving that a successful streaming story doesn't conclude. It just enters a permanent state of oscillation.
An endless cycle of relevance, and one we will definitely continue to track.
That's it for this week's Unpack. Next episode, we're unpacking Spotify Wrapped 2025, the surprise artists, global listening shifts, and the hidden insights everyone is sharing online. We'll see you then.